And you're
Yeah, I
okay.
got you right here, man. This is
I
a new
assumed as
episode.
much. I guess it's like right before you hit that broadcast. I was like, let me make sure.
Yeah, you're good. We're
All right.
good. Anyway, guys, what is up? We got Anthony here, Silver Screen Analysis. As you already know, this is another episode of Chew on This where we bring on fellow YouTubers to talk about their passions. Today we got Silver Screen Analysis, like I said, Anthony. What's up, Anthony? How are you doing?
Good, man. How you been? It's good to see you.
Always good to talk to you, man. It's been a while. I'm ready to catch up, man. First of all, I mean, real quick, how are you, man? What's the last movie you watched?
I'm doing pretty good. Actually, the last movie I watched was just a couple days ago. I went to a screening of Instant Family, and I had a good time with that one. So I think I have to wait 2 weeks until I
Okay.
could put out the review. I think it comes out the 16th, but it was very well made, and I had a good time with it. But I was off for a couple weeks doing some vacation stuff. I got back into the grind, and it's been, before that, the last movie I saw was The Predator, and it wasn't that good. So after
Oh
about
wow, it's been that long, huh?
yeah, I
Yeah.
took like 3 weeks off, and then it was like I came back, watched Bohemian Rhapsody, and yeah, Hunter Killer, a couple others. So it's good to get back in the swing of things.
Gotcha. Have you seen Halloween yet?
Not yet. I need to catch up on that. I haven't seen Venom. I need to see
Ooh, wow.
First Man. I need to see yeah, many movies. I got about 7 or 8 of them on the list there that I got to catch up on.
Yeah, 2 or 3 left. Like you were talking, I think you were gonna say Beautiful Boy. I'm trying to see that for a while.
Yeah,
Sisters Brothers haven't been in any theaters near me, so I'm trying to see that as well.
yeah.
But man, it's always fun to talk about movies. So let's get into it, man. I mean, your channel, I have to say this right off the bat, guys. I'm a huge fanboy of Anthony, even though we're friends. This guy's content is amazing. Seriously. Only 1,000 subs, but he's got a good passion for it, good work ethic. And how did you get started with all this, man? Where did your passion for film come from?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for the compliment. I greatly appreciate that.
Of course.
I mean, I've always liked movies. I'm a product of the '80s, so I mean, the mid '80s. It couldn't be a better time for movies like Karate Kid, Back to the Future, The Predator, Terminator. All those movies that came out throughout the '80s just really pulled me into cinema. I moved from LA to Washington State, probably when I was like in the second or third grade, and it was cloudy, rainy all the time. I lived kind of out in the woods a little bit, not like in the suburbs, so a lot of time to watch movies. Always loved them, and once I was in college, I had an assignment that I had to do some write-ups for some reviews. I
Mhm.
had a good time with it. Basically, wrote reviews for 3 4 years, and then I wanted to change that up. I figured I'd try YouTube and see what the video side of it was like, and turns out I have fun making the videos. It's different than just writing every single time for a write-up of a project, and I'm having fun with this so far.
Most definitely. Yeah. What would you say the biggest difference is in terms of sharing your voice through writing versus actually recording videos and putting it out there?
The feedback. I mean, I like the feedback, but at the same time, it opens that door to criticism.
Yes.
And I mean, you could put 1,000 reviews up online and in the written form, and you might get 1 or 2 comments here and there that aren't
Mm.
from your tight knit fan base. And YouTube though is completely different. Opens it up completely wide open to that. People coming in, you mispronounce one little syllable of a word, and they're jumping on you about it. If they subjectivity is something that it's greatly lacking in the viewership on YouTube, which leads to some fun in the comments. But that's definitely the biggest difference, which is both good and bad, is like the feedback that you get. I mean, I appreciate that, because with that added influx of feedback from people that are watching your content comes also a lot of like good conversations. I mean, that's
Mm.
how you and I ended up meeting.
Exactly.
You just got to filter out the bad stuff, and but it's actually it's both good and bad, but I think it's definitely mostly been good.
Yeah, it definitely comes with the territory. To do this
Yeah,
kind of stuff, you have to have some thick skin and just go
yeah.
for it, and just be yourself. Just talking about growing up in the 80s, with the recent influx of remakes and reboots, how do you feel about that? Because I know I was born in 1999, so I'm not really huge on that. I don't care. It doesn't bother me as much, but I'm curious to know how you would feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, I just reviewed a movie called Papillon, which was actually like a '70s movie, and I've had a lot of people just say in the comments that it's like you can't have a good movie, why even remake it because the first one is so good. And I think there certainly are some untouchable projects, but I mean, nostalgia and pop culture is popular right now, but there are some movies that a lot of people of your generation wouldn't have gone back to watch or focus on if not, if these remakes hadn't come out. I mean, as long as you put some effort in and try to go and add your, personality, add your flair to it, doing it, having a remake or even a reboot, whatever the difference may
Mm,
be, isn't a bad thing at all. But it's when it's like a clear cash grab, that's when I have a problem with it. It's when certain films that I don't think should be touched or talked about being touched or something like that. It's like, okay, these there's also a time period there. So some
yes, most
movies,
definitely.
some tropes and films that are actually great for those 80s movies aren't going to come back and be able to hit with that same just reaction now. It's just times have changed, and it's
It's
like
very
that's why they're 80s movies. So it's like, for example, I don't know, a movie like The Goonies, it's like I would never want to hear that being remade just
God, I
because
hope not, right?
it's a
Seriously.
classic, and you can't redo Sloth and everything the way it was done, because it wouldn't work these days. So it's like stuff like that I don't like to see. But at the same time, all these remakes are good. It brings a new spotlight to these movies. When the movies get released, sometimes the remakes get released, sometimes the originals get re-released on
Mhm.
Blu-ray with additional features. Who knows? It does lead to other avenues. So I don't generally have a problem with it, as long as there's still an influx of like fresh, new takes on stories to go see in addition to them.
Exactly, exactly. There's a time and a place for sure,
Yeah,
and to
yeah,
to capitalize on that is very hard. But like you're saying now, people are so into 80s and 90s retro
yeah,
stuff. We got NES
yeah,
Classic, SNES Classic, old
yeah.
school movies. Mid 90s just came out, which was really good. You need to go check that one out. I don't know if you have already, but
Absolutely. I haven't yet. Yeah, that actually was the day I got back. That movie was screening, and I was contemplating it. I couldn't make it. I had like a 8 hour flight and then a 3 hour flight to get home, and I was like, okay. The next day had that movie came up, and I was like, I was
mhm.
gonna try to make it. I wanted to so bad. I've heard nothing but great things, but
It's an amazing movie. It's an amazing
yeah,
film. Yeah,
I'm hoping to catch it real soon.
you got to check it out, man. In terms of, since we just passed the Halloween season, did you do anything for that, man? Horror movies that you would say are sacred? We're talking about remix stuff you wouldn't touch, stuff you really care about that you really enjoy. I see your Pennywise shirt, of course. Love it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I actually, it's hard. I think a lot of people like Halloween more than I do. The actual Halloween film, the
Hmm.
original, I think it has some great parts to it. I don't think it doesn't, I don't know, it's not that classic to me. I'm more of a Nightmare on Elm Street guy. I like to watch Child's Play. The stalker killer, serial killer film, the slasher flick is fun, but when they can talk and torment you and have their own
Yes,
personality. So it's like
exactly.
every Halloween I watch those movies. But yeah, those are my routine ones. I like People Under the Stairs. I like some of those kind of like, off the beaten path horror movies, Donnie Darko. But yeah, I
Ooh,
kind
that's a
of
good one.
yeah, it's been a couple years since we did any costume parties and stuff like that. So the last
Yes.
the last few years we've been home on Halloween, and it's like we kind of watch those. We watch The Shining, even like some psychological thrillers like The Bone Collector and other movies like Copycat. Yeah, I have my kind of like my niche group of movies that I like to watch every
Gotcha.
year for Halloween.
Gotcha. So you're not super into the gory, Eli Roth kind of crazy shit like that, I'm assuming then, right?
No, I mean I watch it. I mean I try to review everything, so
Hmm.
there's nothing I won't go watch. But yeah, I mean I've actually been recently doing some video on demand reviews, so
Yeah,
there
well, I
had
was just about to ask about that.
I
Yeah.
have some like gory slasher movies that I just watched, and it's like I like it when it's that old Fangora, the actual practical effects and not using the CG, so it doesn't bother me. But as far as yeah, nothing that's extremely gory has any kind of rewatch value to me. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I'll watch them, I'll enjoy them the first time, and sometimes they don't really hit with me, but they don't really call back to, pull me back in for routine watches.
Gotcha. And we just talking about that too. I was about to ask you about that. Your video on demand reviews. I mean, they have definitely shaped, people that they're your fans, what they watch. I mean, most people wouldn't know about these movies unless you were talking about them. So what got you started doing the video on demand reviews? It's very niche, like you were talking about as well.
Yeah, well, it's first it started as like I just, being on the press list, it's like your email gets kind of fluctuated out there, and
Hmm.
people start sending you a couple screener links now and again, and then once you send a couple links back, they start adding more to that. And when I started noticing that I like to review these films just because not everybody reviews them. That there are a niche group of critics that definitely do them, but I like to add that to mine because I don't want to just be a film reviewer that does the blockbusters or does
Exactly.
every single
Exactly.
Disney movie when it comes out and stuff like that. I like to review short films. I like to do film festival films. I like to do straight to videos because a lot of times those lead me to like some of those cheesy action movies that I love. It also leads me to a ton of bad movies, but
Yeah, of
those,
course.
I mean, those have a viewership to it. You know, when a weekend comes out and you have a little bit of extra time, you put out that review for that, and it gets eyes to your channel that you might not get if you're one of like 1,500 people putting up like a solo review or something like
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
And plus it adds the more review links that you send back and stuff like that. It's just good for business, and it helps. Everybody covers the popular films. It's good to kind of cover some of the smaller budget movies and just kind of see. I like to watch performers. I like to watch filmmakers kind of grow up throughout their career and kind of progress through the stages of the film quality. So sometimes you see these like little, actors in small roles and directors and stuff like that. And then you end up seeing them get to progress is kind of cool at
Exactly.
the same
Yeah.
time. So,
I mean, a lot of indie movies, I mean, people are missing out on, the same way you're talking about video on demand. I just had a lot my last episode. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Mandy. Everyone's been talking about that. And that was straight to video on demand. And it's been, killing it.
yeah.
Everyone's talking about it now. So it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. I mean, I watched recently. I watched Slice. Had a good time with that. I watched it on the
Ooh, that one
plane.
looked good. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, people always say there's not original cinema. I think there definitely is original cinema. I think that the mainstream cinemas don't focus on that just because
I
it's
agree.
harder for a smaller budget movie to get into the theater. So the fact that, the streaming services are kind of adding a light to these, straight to video and smaller budget projects is pretty cool because word of mouth gets on that. So all of a sudden, Mandy comes out, a small little niche group watches it, and then
Mhm.
it blows up, and a lot of people watch it. I mean, one of my favorite movies from the past few years was Snowpiercer with Chris Evans.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah, and
Awesome
it's a
movie.
movie that you couldn't get any screen time at like an AMC or a Regal or any of those chain theaters. You have to actually drive to like an art house theater or one of those small theaters off the beaten path to
Exactly.
find it, which are not in. I mean, for us, we can find those, but in not every state they're readily available. I mean, some people, not everybody's going to
Mhm.
want to drive 2 hours to a major city to go watch a movie.
Most people, exactly, because we're
Yeah,
blessed to live in California, where
yeah,
movies, are coming out the wazoo, short films, indie films. And
yeah,
Snowpiercer, what a great mention! That film was
yeah.
phenomenal. I haven't had anyone talk about it in so long. People forget how good that movie was.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it's just one of those small movies that it's like not enough people got to see, which is unfortunate. I think someday they'll be just, I think it's going to be increasingly noticeable that these movies are going to start showing up on smaller platforms. So like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu, or who knows what's going to happen to Hulu with the Disney thing. But
exactly.
yeah, I mean, get more eyes on it, spread the word, and word of mouth will get that thing some long runtime because I've been hearing people talking about Mandy for a while and it's all good things. So it's like
Yep.
people are still
Yep.
probably going back to watch it even now, which is a good thing.
I've seen people put down their best of the year, like so far. People are saying it's the film of the year. So I'm really eager to see. I got the Blu-ray today. Can't wait to watch it.
Nice.
I'm gonna
Yeah, I
do
mean,
a review on
anything
it.
with Nicolas Cage and him putting in some real effort is, hey, I'm down with that. I mean, all those straight to video movies that he puts out, it's fun to see him deliver something real crazy because he can do it.
It is too, and now he's into voice acting too. I don't know if you saw Teen Titans Go earlier this year. He was in that as Superman. He finally got to do something as
Yeah, I heard
Superman.
of, yeah. How was he?
Hilarious. It was utterly
Nice.
hilarious. It was very self-referential for sure. And now he's going to be in the new Spider-Man film as well, coming out, the Into the Spider-Verse as Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah.
So I'm
Excited for
definitely
that
excited
one.
for that. Any
Good for
other
him.
movies you're really pumped for the rest of 2018? Obviously, you've seen Bohemian Rhapsody already.
Yeah, definitely interested. I'm definitely ready for Creed.
Oh yeah,
Um, I'm not. I don't know if I would say I'm super excited for Aquaman, but I'm definitely like extremely curious about what it's
same.
going to be.
Me too.
I had fun with this character in Justice League, but he still was just kind of felt like a Jason Momoa. So I'm interested to see what James Wan's going to do with this comic movie, how it's going to look. I mean, everything. The last trailer looked pretty good. Definitely curious about that one. Glass. Definitely excited for that one. And yeah, off the top of my head, those are definitely the big three that are on my radar.
Oh yeah, Glass is gonna be amazing. First of all, and
Yeah.
I didn't mean to ask you how was Bohemian Rhapsody? I've heard mixed things about it, but I'm really excited to go see it actually.
It's kind of like I don't know. Off the top of my head, I would definitely say it's just one-line review. It's kind of a fluff piece with a fantastic performance.
Wow. Okay.
Rami Malek was fantastic. He definitely went all in, which is kind of, it's good to see. It's almost unfortunate at the same time, because had the story really dove into a lot more substance of the band and their relationships and the things that happened, I think he really could have done a lot with that, more dramatic material. But I mean, he was fantastic. I definitely think he earns a nomination.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'd have to see a few more films to say if, I don't know, maybe if he does get the win. But I think he really disappeared into that role. I wasn't a huge Queen fan, so going back and hearing some of the music was cool. Seeing him perform some of that stuff was cool, because you don't have to be a Queen fan to have seen some Freddie Mercury on
Exactly. Very
YouTube,
true.
or
That's
just
very true.
clips now and again. So he delivered it. The musical parts, all the performances, the stage work, everything, the way it looked was fantastic. The story itself just felt kind of by the numbers. It kind of felt like it left out definitely a lot of stuff. It felt more reliant on the nostalgia, the music, and introducing songs throughout the film than it did
Mhm.
diving into the band and this and that. It kind of just, it felt like a fluff piece, but it's definitely entertaining. I mean, not everybody wants to go watch a movie and come out all, deeply moved and
Oh, for sure.
hurt,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
emotional. It's like everybody doesn't want to hinder that, feel that emotion of all that weight of the substance. But some people just want to go in and have a good time. For that aspect, it was good, because you can go back and just feel, the music and the atmosphere of the time period, because it was a well crafted movie, just not really hard hitting.
Gotcha. I mean, this is becoming a trend now, though, if you've noticed also, because now we got the Elton John movie coming out next year. There's talks of a Prince movie coming out. I mean,
Yeah.
any trends that you've been seeing other than like these music biopics that you want to die or you want to continue to see more of?
That's a tough question. Trends. I would kind of like to see the sequel trend end. I mean,
Very much so. Yeah, same here.
yeah, I mean, it's some of them. I mean, like the end of. I like if a sequel hasn't been made. I mean, other than Bad Boys 3. Okay,
Ooh, yes,
Bad Boys
super
3
excited.
was announced. So I mean, if you're already on your third movie, okay, we'll give you the veto on that one. But like these recent ones with talking about the Gladiator sequel coming up after like maybe
Which is so
15 years.
shocking. That's so
Yeah,
shocking.
just these like the Anchorman 2 sequels, all these sequels that take place like 10 or 15 years after the first movie came out, like Independence Day 2,
Yes,
all those, like they just kind of feel there's just no quality to them. They don't really pull me in. It's like they try to recapture that audience from the first one, and it doesn't work at all. It's just like I definitely would like to see that trend of sequels after 10 years going away, and maybe like not so many of these kind of puff piece biopics as well, like especially with like the music side. I mean, All Eyes on Me
definitely.
was a solid movie. I had a good time with it, but it was also like the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. It was kind of a TRL version of
Yeah, I saw
what
that one. That
happened.
was a very soft version of
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
could
and it's
be.
like and he actually, I thought he did a great job as Tupac.
Oh,
So
phenomenal. Yeah,
had it dove a little bit more in, I thought the potential was definitely there. So yeah, I would like to see him maybe kind of, everything doesn't have to be extremely melodramatic. It doesn't have to be so down, but you could still weave into some of those, because these biopics recently kind of feel like the same paint by numbers progression through it, with just plugging in a new character.
exactly.
And
I feel the same way.
I don't know if it's just because of who's telling the story and which direction it's coming from, who wants what left out, or if it's just time constraints on writing a cohesive script for it. But whatever it is that I would like to see that go away too.
Yeah, it's true, man. And then we got so many superhero movies coming out now. Everyone's always talking about when is that trend going to end. How do you feel about it? I mean, I see your figures in the back you got there are pretty cool. You've been
Yeah,
watching Daredevil as well. I mean, that show's awesome. I don't know if you've seen it
yeah.
yet.
I definitely binged Daredevil season 3. It was a return to form. Had a great time with it. I liked the fact that finally, like every episode of the season mattered and
I would
progressed
say
things
so. I would
forward.
agree with
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
didn't have a lot of filler to it, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, I'm kind of getting the comic book fatigue of everything connecting together.
Mm,
I'm liking where DC's going with some of these standalone movies, because I don't know. I like the fact that like MCU is great. All the Marvel films, they're excellent, but every film does kind of feel like the same movie with just a different character, a different kind of tone to it. But I like the fact of being able to have completely different movies and tone and even rating and all that kind of stuff to
yes.
keep it fresh. I feel like the routine movies coming out, and then having the routine MCU movies coming out, which are solid, and then they had the Justice League, which was kind of like a slightly darker version, trying to follow that exact same thing. I think the result the last like handful of years has been just kind of like a I don't know, regurgitation of the same comic book movie. I mean, Black Panther was fantastic.
Phenomenal
The
film. Yes.
last Avengers movie was fantastic, but really, other than that, nothing jumps out at me as being great, or really standing above the rest as like being completely different because you're still working on wrapping up that story, which is cool. And after Avengers, I know they're going to continue on, but I'm excited to see DC coming in and kind of add some freshness to it. The new Joker movie, Birds of Prey, all these things that are really going to kind of give us different directions for
Most
comic book
definitely.
fans. So it doesn't feel like if you're a comic book fan, you have to go see the same type of movie with the same tone and the same predictable kind of rough ending of where it's going to be. It's got some variety to it, which will kind of add some life back after all these years.
Very much so. I mean, that was my big problem with. I don't know if I'm assuming you saw Ant-Man, correct? Ant-Man 2?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
felt that way about Ant-Man 2, where it was just kind of a movie that didn't really have a big story. It was very self-contained.
yeah,
However, it was the generic kind of there's an issue. We're gonna solve
yeah.
this issue. Bad guy? Are they good? Are they bad? And the movie just ends like that with the after credit scene, and then we're done.
Yeah, it's entertaining when I watch it. I walk out of the theater and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool, but I haven't had one inkling to go back and rewatch it or anything. Even though I think Paul Rudd's fantastic in the lead.
Oh, phenomenal! He's
Yeah,
awesome. He's my favorite part
yeah,
of those movies.
yeah. But yeah, the whole thing it was just kind of forgettable. I mean, I thought some of the characters. I forgot what the other villain, this character, what was her name? Ghost.
Ghost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought she could have been more developed. I would have liked to see more out of that. It just felt, I don't know, kind of watered down, and like I knew what was going to happen. And it kind of feels like the same with all the Marvel movies a little bit ever since kind of Disney took over, and
Yes, very much so.
they have the same tone. When Phase One really had different tone to each of the movies, and we kind of lost that. And then throughout all the years, even though Civil War, Winter Soldier, they're all fantastic movies.
Both great
It's
films.
just,
Yeah.
but they just have that same. You can tell they're all made, despite different directors. They're in that same world. So change it up. Let's put things in different worlds.
Please, yeah.
Everything,
Come on, we're begging
yeah.
for it. Let's see
Keep it
something
fresh.
different.
I'm excited for Hellboy to see what that's going to look like.
Me too. Yeah.
So the forecast is good for sure.
Most definitely. I mean, talking about that too, any movies, because I haven't talked to you in a while, man, any movies from 2018 that really stick out to you?
I definitely like Searching.
I really like that film, yeah.
That movie really surprised me. Sorry to Bother You was a great time.
Awesome. That was awesome.
What else we got? I was really surprised at how disappointing Mile 22 was. That was a big letdown for me.
Yes,
I love a
very much
good
so.
crime cop thriller, and I probably love Den of Thieves more than many people from last year. And this one came out.
Me too, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping for something like that, and it was just not good. But yeah, I missed out a lot of movies in October that really a lot of people are talking about, like First Man, Halloween. I miss Venom. But other than that, I would definitely say Sorry to Bother You stuck out to me. That was a great movie. Searching was a great movie. I really enjoyed Kin. That was kind of a low
Oh
key.
yeah, I was wanting to see that movie, and I didn't really get it. It was what we were talking about earlier. It was not in a lot of theaters. Didn't get a chance to catch that one.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun Chronicle-esque kind of comic book movie that doesn't really relate itself as a comic book movie, but definitely has it's a nice seed that plants itself to go different directions if it wants to. It's definitely worth a shot. The movie itself kind of feels procedural at times, but then once you see the whole thing as one, the whole scope of the movie, it really does generate a lot of different storytelling angles, and I had a good time with that. So I'm looking forward to seeing if it can, that's the sequel I would like to see, because that can start building a world for that.
Please, yeah. Original movies need sequels, honestly.
Yeah, because I think if the budget was a little bit bigger for this one, I think the cast performers that they had there could actually do a good job in kind of developing the characters a little bit, and the story could really go outside itself from that normal kind of through the path of an action sci-fi with a kid on the run kind of deal that you can kind of go and see from other pieces of movies. It can really go outside of that if it gets a sequel. So that was another movie that really stood out to me, but I would definitely say those ones for sure.
Yeah, and going back to your previous point, man, Mile 22 was probably like one of the biggest letdowns of the year, 100%, because they had the guy from The Raid in there, Iko Uwais, and they still couldn't capitalize on that.
Yeah, I was driving to the theater with a smile, I
Oh yeah.
was excited. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, all the promo material looked pretty good. I was like heading there with a smile, and I was just watching, and it was just as it was going. I was like, no. I mean, I thought the shootouts were good. Like
Yes.
that even though the way it's worked into the story with the all yeah, the story was just ridiculous. Mark Wahlberg was ridiculous.
Extremely ridiculous.
And it was
Yes.
like double doses of Mark Wahlberg because not only was you had the Mark Wahlberg in action, there was the narrating Mark Wahlberg
Yes.
that was like talking to the other guy for no apparent reason other than to just kind of tell us what was happening in the story. But yeah, I was expecting to see a lot more of Eco. It over edited him way too much.
Crazy amount. It was shocking
Yeah,
because Peter Berg isn't really generally do that kind of stuff. Him and Wahlberg have made great films in the past, and then to go to this
yeah.
one, they got a great actor like Iko Uwais in there too, fight choreographer, and then they just completely butchered all his scenes almost.
Yeah, they did. They did. And the story just gets kind of ridiculous and it twists and turns.
Oh,
But
by the end of it, I completely lost my mind, man. I was laughing in the theater.
yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see when I'm trying to go back and make like the year-end lists. If it's like how far up the chain is that one gonna work its
Yeah,
way up?
yeah.
Because it's pretty high. It's like off the top of my head, trying to think of another movie that like I mean, there's lots of movies where you know it's gonna be bad before you even go watch it, or you have a
Almost
feeling
definitely.
it's not gonna deliver anything new. But I try to base like my disappointing movies of the year based on movies that I had actual anticipation for, that had the budget, they had the cast, had everything, and then just completely like let me down. It's definitely easily just the top heads and shoulders above anything else that I can think of right now.
I'm right there with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I mean, talking about that though, how do you feel about the state of action movies? I mean, there hasn't been really any because you're from the 80s generation where you got great movies, stuff like Die Hard, Terminator, RoboCop. Now we're in the place where there aren't any really original action movies. Anything that stands out to you in terms of something original that didn't get a lot of love that you want to shout out?
It's actually been so dry in the action movie genre.
Very much so. Yeah, exactly.
I've been going to the VOD side for action movies, and I will give Antonio Banderas some credit.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Okay.
he did Security, a movie called Security, a movie called Acts of Vengeance, and he had one more. He had his little run of like he actually did like 5 VOD movies,
Oh,
and
wow.
Security and Acts of Vengeance were paint by numbers action movies, but they actually had some decent action scenes and. Banderas did a lot of his own stunts, so it's actually cool that the camera work could actually pull back a little bit and just kind of watch the action kind of unfold. It wasn't just music video style choppy editing. So
Yeah, what we get now is
which
pretty much
says something
that.
when it's like I'm an action fan and you asked me about action movies and a couple Antonio Banderas video on demand movies are the
Yes.
first thing that comes to my mind. It's not good, but I mean, most of the good action movies, with aside of like John Wick, um, are kind of in like the gunplay side with like Den of Thieves, stuff like that have good shootouts. But yeah, it's been a little bleak. Hotel Artemis had some good shootouts and some good yeah, some good gunplay, but it didn't really have any good
Yeah,
fight
that was
sequences.
that was another one where we were talking about disappointing movies. That one extremely disappointed me because I thought,
No.
it was gonna be a balls to walls kind of an action movie, and then what
Hmm.
we got was more of a character study kind of film with not so great acting, and I was just like, well, this is what we got
Yeah,
now. We gotta
yeah.
deal with
I
it.
had I had fun with it moderately the first time I watched it. It kind of reminded me of like a Free Fire, just being a little bit different.
Free
Um,
Fire, exactly.
I was,
Remind me of that
just
exact
like a
same way.
different kind of action movie. It had kind of like a little bit of those John Wick, tendencies and tropes in there. It had like great characters, performers. I actually had fun with it the first time. I tried to watch it again on the plane. I couldn't get like 25, 30 minutes into it. Just
Hmm.
wasn't, it was just done first time watching. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed in the rewatch value of that one because I was on the plane. I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch this one. I'm gonna check it out, and yeah, it died quickly. It takes way too long to get going.
Extremely, it's
It
a
could have
yeah.
had two. It could have had a lot more story progression, a lot more with all those characters that they had. There could have been a lot more moving pieces back and forth to keep things going, and it just died. But yeah, I'm really excited for John Wick 3. I think that's going to be fantastic.
Of course.
And Keanu Reeves as John Wick is great. But yeah, I mean, Jason Statham usually gives us a good solid action movie, and this year he gave us one with the shark. So it's like we didn't
Another
get to
disappointing one.
yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't get to see him fighting anybody. So I mean, the good like fight action sequences and stuff like that we haven't really gotten. There's a I think Iko Uwais has a new movie on Netflix. I'm not sure exactly what the title is. but I
I
was
think I've
scrolling
seen the
through.
trailer for this. Yeah, I've seen the trailer for this, and that one looks good as well. I think I
Yeah,
think I
and
need to look
that's
into
one
that.
where it's like I think I'm gonna have to just sometimes you just got to go look and see what the foreign films are delivering and delivering in terms of action because
Yeah,
it's got
honestly,
him and like a few other performers from the raid movies are in there as well. So it's got him as a lot of familiar faces when I was watching the trailer. So I'm actually excited to check that one out. But yeah, I mean, we need to get some more action movies. We're kind of Bautista's kind of making a little run at trying to be an action star and
yeah,
following the Rock's footsteps. But yeah, we need to get because even Hobbs and Shaw is going to have some action scenes in there, but it's not going to be like that old. It's going to be more of like a adventure film, kind of like
I
I
agree
think
with you. Like a buddy cop adventure film. Yep.
like Fast and Furious movie, but with them too. So it's not going to have like that. Who knows? It might, but I kind of miss. Other than Keanu Reeves and John Wick, there hasn't been a lot of serviceable, good, great action scenes with people fighting and good
I agree with you.
choreography.
Yeah, one that I thought didn't get a lot of love though. I just recently rewatched this one was Atomic Blonde. I believe they had the same director as the guy that did John Wick, and I thought that film was really good. I mean, the story got kind of convoluted at the end, but in terms of action and the one long
Yeah,
take scene that they had was absolutely amazing.
yeah, that's a good call. That's one that I forgot about, but that was definitely fantastic. Even if and I agree, the story did have some twists and turns in the third act. It got a little too wrapped up in itself, and it should have just kind of
Very
played
much so.
out.
Yeah,
But I mean, with her and the effort that she put in, and just with her and McAvoy's performance, I think that movie is better than people give it credit for.
I agree with
I
you.
mean, there's definitely been some of those spy movies that had the same amount of potential that didn't deliver nearly the entertainment or the effort in the action scenes. So for that
Yeah,
aspect, I mean, I own that one. I've watched that one. I've seen Atomic Bomb probably 3 or 4 times.
same here. Yeah, very good
I
film.
kind of disregard the last 10 minutes and sometimes I'll start going off and doing my other stuff, but I'm in on that thing throughout. I mean, it's solid.
Yeah, and then that's another thing too. We're talking about Atomic Blonde, movies like that. Generally, they've been releasing the soundtracks for those like way ahead of time, putting them out. Any music soundtracks that stand out to you? That was one for me. I really like mid-90s soundtrack. That one you got to check it out. How do you feel about like the role music's been playing recently in a lot of these upcoming movies?
And it's I think it's just been kind of absent. I think other than like a biopic, I think like you said
Mhm.
mid 90s is from what I hear from the trailers and just all the promo material, every song I hear in that just is like the song I remember, just like songs I remember playing in my car when I was driving around with my house
Yeah.
speakers in the back seat, my license plate rattling around, bumping the music. It was like a lot of those. So that was like, it's great to like pull you back into it. I don't think music other than the biopics, like Bohemian Rhapsody was like one of those movies where it was like so intense on kind of reintroducing the music. All Eyes
Yes,
on
I could
Me was like
imagine.
kind of the same way. But I mean, music doesn't really play like that impact on a lot of movies the way it did back in the 80s. I mean, it's like you from like the 80, like say 95 on is like there's not one real like theme song that you can think of
Yeah.
that made the Jurassic Park, you know, in the Star Wars, the ones that kind of continue on. But other than that, I mean, back in the day, you had like the Back to the Future, the Terminator, you had
Yeah.
even the Die Hard, just like the background music to that one. Gremlins had its music, the Goonies music. I mean, all that stuff was just so nostalgic, and I don't think it's like it. I don't know. Maybe in the future a lot of these will stand out. Like Harry Potter and stuff like that.
Oh
But I
yeah, for
think in
sure.
just like routine movies, that it doesn't really play as big a part, and that's why I think it's more noticeable when a score is really good because like it stood out to me with the last War of the Planet of the Apes.
Fantastic score. Not a huge
Yeah,
fan of that movie, but fantastic score. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it was the way they hit some of the old themed music when they hit the jungle scene in the beginning and then or the forest scene in the beginning and then it kind of transverses into its own theme. I thought it was that score was fantastic. But yeah, off the top of my head, it's like with if it's not like John's, Hans Zimmer, John Williams, what's Sylvester, yeah, it's like a lot of them don't really stand out to me until I'm watching the movie, and it's like, okay, it really jumps out at me just because it's not like it was back in the day where it stands out and it resonates with me, but it could have been just a growing up and a nostalgia thing too.
Oh, I completely understand where you're coming from. Yeah, 100%. As someone like we keep on talking about the 80s and the between the 90s and 2000s, what would you say had the better films? Like I said, I'm not super versed on them. I love the early 2000s films like American Pie, the sequels I even love. films like that, early Terminator movies, Terminator 3, and even Salvation I was a big fan of. So any movies that stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say as a decade, the '90s were better. I think in the early 2000s, CGI and what they could do with technology came out, and I think they ran with it a little too much
Good call. Yeah,
because
for sure.
there's a lot of that, like you could tell this, like that's early 2000s CGI.
Yes. Yes.
But in the '90s, it's like you still had to rely on like stunt choreography and a little bit more practical effects. So it's like the '90s, you had like, well, I mean, the Matrix is like 1999, if I remember correctly. I think it came out right before 2000. But I mean, they did the technology. That was like the pinnacle of what technology could do. And then you had a lot of those other ones where it's like blatant green screen work, and it's almost like the equivalent of what we could do now with like Premiere and stuff like that. But I
Exactly.
mean, in the '90s, you had all those like just kind of great action movies. You had more of the Die Hard movies. You had more of the Lethal Weapon movies that were just a lot of stunt work, stunt choreography. You had like Point Break and Speed and just all the True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Fantastic. All these
Um,
are fantastic films.
all
Yeah.
those like great '90s classics, and it's like even Last Action Hero, like the comical side of Schwarzenegger, and then Stallone just had his run. We had all of the Jean Claude Van Damme was hot. Wesley Snipes was at the top of his game. Steven Seagal. It's like that's like so many action stars that were like at their peak in the '90s. That it's
Exactly.
like we've had like maybe one or two at a time, now.
Mm.
And they were all coming out in original, like other than like the ones that already had their franchises that were continuing on, they were all coming out with like their own different movies. I mean, Van Damme had long hair, he had short hair, Prisoner, he's out in the woods. It's like he's doing everything. Every kind of movie was different. And now it's like, even with The Rock, I mean, The Rock is fantastic, but he's getting into that thing where he's like
Yeah, dude.
jumping on the projects and franchises and kind of, you know, yeah, Big Trouble in Little China, Jumanji, Rampage, all these other ones. He's becoming like that. Like he's marketable. They're fun movies, but it's just not the same as back in the '90s. So even throughout the 2000s, I mean, Vin Diesel's run and like all those, there's never been that big of a collection of like profitable mainstream
Mm.
cinema action stars. And even back then, you had like Jim Carrey. You had a lot of Saturday Night Live alumni coming out for all the comical movies. You had a lot of like Adam Sandler was coming up and blowing things up. I think even like American Pie came out, like the first one came out in the late '90s, I think.
99, I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah, so that came out right at the tail end there. You still had some of those like early '90s movies, like The Chase with Charlie Sheen, and just kind of like Wayne's World, and some of those cheesy kind of
Oh, yeah.
comedies that felt like leftovers from the '80s. So yeah, I'd say the '90s is an underrated decade. I don't think it doesn't measure up with the '80s, but it's pretty close.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
yeah, I think it's better, as the 2000s come along, and special effects definitely now in the tens or the 2010s, whatever you would call this decade, is definitely fantastic. I mean, I love to see it, but at the same time, it's kind of nice when some films rely on both
Oh,
practical
yeah.
and the
Most
digital
definitely.
effects.
Most definitely. Why do you think that is that we don't get action movies like that nowadays? Do you think it's more of a product of like the way society structure, or more so that we don't have those action stars like you're saying, that we don't have those stories to tell through them?
Yeah, I don't think we got. I mean, the stories are always there. I mean, you could kind of just. It's a guy put in a place or a girl put in a place that they have to get out of, or it's a revenge movie. I mean, even like there are some like
Oh, yes. I forgot that one
Peppermint
came
with
out. Yeah.
Jennifer Garner, and Jessica Chastain has a new one coming out that is along that same lines. There was that other one with Gina Carano, Haywire. It's like
Haywire, the good
there's
one.
some of
Steven
those
Soderbergh.
movies,
Yeah.
but it's like I think there's like um, not so many people can. Our performers are really willing to maybe come in and take that on. Maybe it's like insurances. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the funding that it is to get that. It's just easier to have people do it in the CGI room. But then we had that whole influx of like the older action star became
Oh, yeah.
popular.
That's still a thing, man. We got Liam Neeson
Yeah,
still doing action movies. He got a new
yeah.
trailer just came out for his new one next year.
So I mean, Taken was great, but
Yeah.
Taken 2 is okay. Taken 3 was not so good. It takes like 6 cuts just to show him jumping over a fence. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
like the
that's
pros
horrible.
and the cons, but it's like when you try to outdo the means of your performer. I mean, I think the perfect example of how to do it right is like the Equalizer movies.
Love those films. Yeah, both of them are really good
Denzel, I
films.
mean, Denzel Washington comes in, he's doing the choreography. It's not he's not jumping over things. He's running from place to place, but he's not vaulting over boxes or sliding under. He's not doing anything that a man his age with extreme talents couldn't do. And so it works better on camera. You don't have to have so many cuts, but it's like that also kind of hinders the ability of what the action movies can do, because it's like even Antonio Banderas doing these straight to video action movies, he's, in his 50s. So
Yeah.
I think also the trend of the older aging action star right now in this decade or decade and a half that we've been has kind of hindered the amount of the movies and the how far they can go, at least for sure.
Most definitely. I mean, like the way the Expendables films went, the first one was pretty good, and then we just slowly went down this rabbit hole, and then the third one ended up being PG-13 with a whole new mess of characters, and it just
Yeah,
horrible, absolutely horrible.
yeah, yeah. I think if people, I think sometimes there's an over reliance on thinking we can fix it post edit or we can fix it with CGI. Because
Yeah,
there's a lot of
very
movies
much
where
so.
it's like, how could they have said that's the final cut, and you're moving on to the next scene in the movie, and it's like, wow, that was the final cut that they used.
I
You
hate to tell
didn't
you,
you
man.
didn't say rewind it and do it one more time.
Yeah, yeah. I hate to tell you, man. Venom. A lot of those scenes in that movie, I was questioning that the whole time, man. Just,
Really?
how is this possible? How could this possibly be a good? Someone thought it was a good idea and put it to screen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I've heard mostly mixed to negative reviews about it.
I would
Even
say,
the
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
people. Go ahead.
I enjoyed the film. It was an entertaining film. Tom Hardy was great, physical comedy. I mean, but in terms of actual dialogue, good writing, not even close. You know?
And that's basically what people say. It's enjoyable. Even the ones that said it was entertaining didn't say they loved it, and
Exactly.
they didn't clamor for a sequel. Like, I can't wait to see it again,
No,
because it
that's
was
fair.
PG-13, right?
Yes, very much so. Very noticeably PG-13 with the lack of blood when people's heads get ripped off or get impaled and no blood is kind of ridiculous. That's the new
Okay.
trend now. That's the new trend, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, it's on the list. I probably gonna end up catching it when it hits Blu-ray. I don't know if its theater time has been dramatically cut with the times of showing it per day. So we'll
Oh
see if
yeah.
I get a chance to
I
make
was
it. I
about to
want to
ask.
see it on the big screen, but it's probably gonna be tough.
Oh yeah. Have you seen A Star Is Born yet? Because I didn't hear you mention that one. I was gonna meaning to
No,
ask you
I
about
haven't
that.
got to see that one yet either. Pretty much all of October was a wash.
Gotcha.
I was
Gotcha.
out. Yeah, I was like, I saw Predators, and then after that, I was gone. It was like I missed like some good movies.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
this
like,
has been the best month for film, I would say, this year, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I just kept on seeing all the reviews popping up of this. It's like, oh man, I forgot this one was coming out. I just forgot this one was coming out. It's like it's been a long time since I remember this many like solid movies coming out in October.
Oh yeah.
So
Time to play catch up, Anthony. It's time to play.
yeah, yeah. I got some stuff. I got some stuff to do these next couple weekends to catch up for sure.
Very much so. And I've been meaning to ask you this as well. You started a series on your channel where you're going to do the top 100 movies of all time. I was
Yeah,
very into that. I loved your choices for the
yeah.
first 10. I agreed with Safe House. Not a lot of people give that movie love, but it's awesome. Are we going to see a continuation of that sometime in the
Yeah,
future?
I'm actually working on the next three
Okay.
to work up to 50. They took a lot longer than I was expecting to edit, just to get
Mhm.
them to look the way that I want them to look, and pulling all the resources together of like information and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm actually working on the next one. Should be coming out pretty soon. It's just about done. I just got some like some bunch of editing to do on that. Started a lot of collecting of all the clips and footage for all the ones like basically the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So it's been fun, man. I thought it was going to be a lot quicker. I
I'm
thought, but
sure.
it's like
Yeah.
once I start going back, it's like I made some changes to the list. So it's like, okay, I had to like reshuffle some stuff. And then, yeah, just collecting the footage took a lot longer than I thought, but it's been a great time just going back and like revisiting all the movies, and stuff like that. A lot of
Mhm.
them I have in my collection already, so it's like I'll pop them in and just kind of skim through and watch some scenes here and there, and that's the best part of it, is just going back. And I like how a lot of people come on and like say, "Oh, I've never seen this one, I've never seen that movie," and it's just a fantastic movie, which is like, oh, it kind of makes me jealous. It's like, oh, to go back and say to watch this movie for the
Yes.
first
Isn't that
time
the best?
again
Yeah.
would be fantastic.
Without spoiling the rest of your list, I mean, do you feel like a lot of the movies on your list are more modern, or is it more nostalgia? considering, you know, more 80s, 90s, early 2000s, or more movies from the current generation?
I definitely would say there's more pre. Well, it's tough because I wove in a lot of different genres in there,
Very much so.
and a lot of different genres from different time periods. So I would say it has a good balance. I think you're always going to see like an influx. It'd be kind of like an influx of a little bit of 80s and 90s, but I definitely think you're going to see up at the tops of the list some movies that aren't from that long ago that really snuck in and were
Gotcha.
like, wow. I wouldn't say you're going to see a lot of recent action movies at the top of the
Of
list,
course not.
but there's definitely going to be some movies from this decade, the last few years, up well up on the list because I even in making it, you know, when I started making the list, it's like you start writing it down and naturally you're just like, oh, you know, this movie, this movie, this movie, this movie. They're all like your nostalgic favorites coming down. And then it's like you're driving to work or you're sitting in traffic, you're at the gym and you're like thinking about, oh, these other movies that from this year popped up and from that one popped up. And then when you
Yeah.
start writing those down and you look at them side by side and you're like, okay, this one's got some nostalgia to it. But if I had to go back and sit and watch one right now, it definitely would be this one. So that's how a lot of like it was definitely a nostalgia heavy list. And that's how a lot of the new ones came in. That's why I kind of waited like when I made the list, I waited like 2 months just
Yeah.
because like a couple days like Safe House would pop in or Bone Collector would pop in when normally it wouldn't jump right out at my head. I go back and look at like my DVD collection or Blu-ray collection and see what other ones I missed. But that was the best part, you know, just
I'm
going
sure.
back
Yeah.
and thinking about it. And it got real hard which ones to whittle off. But yeah, it definitely has a good mix of different genres throughout all the years, even going back into, you'll probably see some from the mid to late 70s in
Oh
there as
wow.
well. Yeah, yeah. Probably, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm not sure if anything from the 60s made it. But definitely some 70s movies for sure.
Awesome. Oh, I'm looking forward to it, man. That was one of
Yeah.
my favorite videos off of your channel so far. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
that first piece and the runners up as well. In terms of making the list though, like you're saying, how much time in totality did it originally take to actually, you know, sit down and boil it down to like at least a good chunk of films and then start narrowing things down?
I'd say making the list of 100 probably took, I'd say about 3 months.
Wow.
So it's like I probably started jotting some stuff down right before last Christmas. And then I sat on it for a while. I mean, because of source, when you start listing your favorite movies, it's like you just start listing movies all the way
Oh yeah.
down. You don't order them out or anything like that.
Of
It's
course
just
not.
like
No.
you just
Yeah.
start pages of like favorite movies that you just that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. And then it's like you got like a list of 1 through 100. And it's like I start plugging them in. And then after that, it's like it had, I don't even know, so many revisions that it's hard to tell because then you think you have one. And then
Of
it's just
course.
like you don't just roll with it yet. It's like, okay, so if I can go like a week or 2 weeks without like a movie popping into my head, then it's like I think I got a pretty solid list.
Mhm.
So, you know, but I'd have it and it's like 5 days would go by, I'd be driving to work or I'd be listening to like, I don't know, Collider Movie Talk or watching one of everybody's reviews on YouTube and someone would say something about something and then it just triggers a reaction and you're like boom 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 boom, you just list like 4 movies that like you completely forgot about, so it's like it blows up everything.
And it's
You
all
know,
back to the drawing board from there, basically, huh?
yeah, you're like, okay, let me scribble some notes, let me redo it. So but once I had it, I was like, I looked through the list, I was like, okay, at this point, even if something was to slip in there, I don't think it's anything that's going to jump up in that top 60.
Gotcha.
Most of the revisions were made in that last 40.
I could
And
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, your 1 through 50 is pretty solid. If you one of those ones after a few days pops in and you're like, damn, that's a good movie. It's like, okay, it might end up because you got to do something with that one that you're moving, and
Oh yeah.
eventually something's gonna get. That's how the whole honorable mentions came to be. Like I wasn't even gonna do. At first, I was like, I might do some honorable mentions like right before I start my video, but then it's like, man, I had
Mhm.
10 great movies. I was like, I can't not take them off the list completely. It's like I'll just do an
So gotta
honorable
give him some
mentions
love.
video.
Gotta give him
It's like,
some
all right,
love.
well, it looks like I'm doing an honorable mentions video. And then I started putting it together and it's like, okay, these things are about 22 minutes. It's like, damn, these things take a lot longer to edit than I thought.
Almost
but
definitely.
but it's like the final result was like it's fun to watch, you know? So I had did a bunch of voiceover work because it's I kind of like just have my bullet point notes and I kind of like talk about what I'd like about the movies. I try to work them into like cohesive paragraphs and stuff like that. And I record all of it, and then I put all the video footage and the images over the top. And then I was like playing with my microphone, and I noticed this slight change on my decibels. Took away some of that slight echo can effect.
Gotcha.
So it's like once I did that, it's like okay, well, I gotta go redo the last two.
The last whole bits that you just did for the past
Yeah,
hour or
so
two
I
on your
had
phone.
71 through 80 and 81 through 90 recorded, and I was just seaming them together. And then once I made that 1 decibel change on my microphone, everything sounded much more it didn't sound like I was, deep inside like a coffee can, just a little slight
Gotcha.
echo, because it was like noticeable to me. And I would sit there and I would try to add filters to it, which really took a long time. But now that I got that set up, the audio's good, I'm ready to rock and roll. I think I'm gonna start pumping them out a lot faster, and hopefully, I'm working on like these four at once
Yeah.
and trying to like get this piece of it done, get that piece of it done, and get that all throughout each one, and then that way I can kind of like roll them out, and then maybe like play with that new Premiere feature on YouTube or something like that. We'll see.
Oh yeah, man, I'm really excited for that. I mean, what I liked about it too, and what I like about your channel a lot too, is that you usually, I mean, not to say that you would follow the norm, but most people, general mainstream reviewers generally like the same kinds of movies. But you are more out there, like with Starsky and Hutch. What an odd pick that I did not expect at all. Do you anticipate a lot of people being shocked by the rest of your list as well, just like that?
I think if you know me, you won't be shocked by my list at all.
Okay.
I think the people that know me will be like, oh, I could definitely see why he likes that one, or I could definitely see why he likes this one, and another buddy will be like, well, I'm not surprised he likes that one. He made me watch it 1,000 times. So I think if you know me, you'll see my personality in them. But yeah, I think I mean, my watching habits are kind of like if I grew up watching 80s cartoons. I watched like the Transformers movie, like the animated movie in like '84,
Mm,
Land Before Time,
good
uh,
one.
Toy Story. But other than that, like never, I came up at that era where it was like Stallone and Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, Seagal, all these action characters. I was into action movies, so I didn't really grab into any of the Disney movies or anything like that. So yeah, I never really got highly into the animated movies and stuff like that. So yeah, yeah.
Super excited, man. Let's see it. And then, as well as we're closing it out here, I just want to get your thoughts. Tips for people that are just trying to get into this, trying to start it up. What advice would you give them? People that are excited to get into the movie reviewing or movie discussion realm on YouTube or in general.
And just do what you want to do, and if you're really trying to get a bunch of viewers and stuff like that, I mean, it's not going to be easy, real fast. It's just there's so much, especially if you're in a market like I do movie reviews. A ton of other people like movie reviews. Like I said with that last one, it's like I never grew up with a lot of animated movies, so when people come out and do like the Disney trailer reactions and the Disney reviews and stuff like that, I don't really relate to it because it's
Yeah.
like I like these different types of movies. And so for that aspect, I knew that it's like I don't do a lot of the stuff that everybody else does. So growing slower was just going to be a thing that was naturally for me. So it's like that's something that a new YouTuber really has to think about. Like, what are you doing it for? Are you doing it because you like to work with the software and you like to make movie reviews? Are you doing it because you just like to talk about movies? Do you do it because you want to have a interaction with people? It's like you really want to know what you're doing it for, and then be reasonable and realistic about where it can go. Like I have a full-time job. This is my hobby, but at the same time, I've always loved talking about movies. Um, I get to see a lot of movies because I review them. So I have a nice little thing working for me, but I don't ever do this to try to make it famous or try to be big or try to be rich off making YouTube videos, because if I
Mm,
did, I wouldn't be doing throwback reviews of the Burbs or
of course not.
you
Yeah.
know uh, Drop Zone with Wesley Snipes from '94 when everybody else is doing I don't know, Incredibles 2 or something like that. It's like, when I go off the norm because I just have fun talking about movies. Other people, it depends on what. So it's like just be patient, I would definitely tell people to be patient. I would tell people to put in the effort to make videos that people are going to want to watch. I think a lot of the times I've noticed that with like so many people doing reviews, I think it's just a lot of like hit the button, no real like thought process to talking or anything like that. It's just like it does it's just really it's like there's a difference between somebody that just sits down, hits the camera on and starts talking, and a person that hits the camera and sits down and starts talking without having an idea of where their
Yes, very
thought is
much
going to
so.
go.
Of course.
So and then at the same time that's a person that's going to be like, I don't understand why my channel is growing. So it's like I think that if you put in the effort to make great videos, that would be the best advice I could have. Just be patient, make good videos, make videos because you like making videos and talking about movies, and just communicating with other people that make videos like you to see how you can make them better. And but yeah, I mean, if you're looking for quick money, it's not going to work.
This is not the place for quick money at
No,
all. No, not
no.
at
I had
all.
YouTube for like 2 years. I made $100, and then after like a week after I made my $100, they told me that I was losing all my
Yep. Yep.
monetization because I didn't meet the thing. It's like, well, hey, at least I got my $100 after 2 years. So if $50 a year is something that you want to do, you know, it's hard to say. What a lot of people are going to want to do with that. I think a lot of people are trying to just make it big on YouTube when it's not really like that. You kind of have to branch out and do
Mm,
other things, and it's like really another piece of advice would be if you want to make money off it, it's like branch out and learn, Patreon and tiers and enticing people to come in and support you to grow your thing and really show that effort. So people that can, there's so many other people out there. If you're not showing the effort, they'll go to another person that does videos just like what you're doing and see someone that does show the effort, and they're naturally going to be a patron to that person or something.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Put in the effort and make videos that you really be proud of. And then that way you can work on spreading them out there and getting people to back you and like your stuff.
Could not have said it better myself, sir. I mean, thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure with you. Good catching up as well.
Yeah.
Stuff you want to plug real quick before we go off the air here?
Yeah, just swing by the Silver Screen Analysis. I do a tons of video reviews, movie reviews for big movies, small movies. Hopefully got some more of my top 100 videos coming soon. I started up a second channel called Anthony DeJoya. That's just everything non-movies. It's like sometimes I like to, even after making videos, I like to break it up. So I got that channel out there. Did a backpack review, did a travel review. I'm going to do some more video reviews from my trip that I just took. So check out for that. You can find me on Twitter at Your Cinema Guy, Facebook at Silver Screen Analysis, and that's about it, man. Thanks for having me on. We've been communicating back and forth via text. It's good to finally talk to you again. It's been a long time since we did that the comic book movie, the review for the movie
that was
minds
the last time,
year.
huh? That's been about a year ago.
Year and a half ago. So it's been awesome to be on talking with you, man. I had a great time.
Always, I would love to have you on again. Hopefully, sometime in the future, we'll come back for a discussion for something. Whatever the reason, I would love to have you back on, man.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
Always. And it was a great time having you, man. Anyway, guys, it's Michael here. Finished another video off. We had a great time with Anthony. Please go check out his channel. Like you said, I'm honest to God. I know I say this about most of my guests because I'm a huge fan of all of them. I love them. That's why they're here. And his videos are A grade. Please go check them out. I'm Michael. You're here on my channel. Please subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoy. Tell me who you guys also want to see on this. I'll try to reach out to as many other fellow YouTubers as I can. It's always a good time. And that's all I can say, guys. Say in peace. Later, guys.